Greetings! Let me tell you about the afternoon I spent with Eric Clapton at Eric's house. Been wanting to tell this story for about 5 years. I can finally kind of do it, but I can't talk about some of the names and some of the places and logistics because, it's confidential. Here's what happened. I've got a friend called Michael who worked for Guitar Center right at the top, right at the top. And Michael and I were good friends because at the time, Chapman guitars were sold through Guitar Center and I'd been helping them with some marketing activities myself. Guitar Center, obviously very good friends with Fender and with Martin. And Fender and Martin wanted to take some prototypes to Eric for him to make decisions about guitars that he might want to release. So Michael phones me up. Hey Rob, how you doing, man? I'm in England. I'm like, oh, what are you doing in England? Oh, I'm filming a video. They sent me over with a DSLR with some audio stuff. And I'm like, why don't you sound happy about that? And he's like, don't really know what I'm doing. I'm like, what? Do you want a hand? I mean, I can, if you let me know the day, maybe I can find some space, come and give you a hand, set it all up, sort of thing. Filmed a few videos, 1,500 at this point. And he's like, man, that would be so helpful. Thank you so much. And I said, who are you filming? And he went, Eric Clapton. It was what we call in England a marmalade dropper moment, at breakfast. Drop the marmalade kind of thing. I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, well, I'm there with bells on. Didn't have a car. Borrowed a car from my bro, Dave Hollingworth. Put a bunch of my own gear, tripods, lighting, what have you in the car. Picked up Michael. Zipped over to Eric's house in central London. Took me about an hour to park. Got to the door. His manager met us. Really nice guy, actually. Obviously, I was very nervous. My musical beginning was all about Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Peter Green, Cream, on audio cassettes in my dad's car, driving to kung fu classes and stuff like that. We put on Cream, Strange Brew, just all that. I kind of came online with music, listening to Eric, Jimmy, all those guys. So this was mad for me. Anyway, they said, listen, the room you're going to be filming in, there are a lot of, celebratory platinum albums and trophies, and Eric doesn't want any of that filmed. If possible, could you find an angle that doesn't incorporate quite so many? And man, there were a lot. So that was the first challenge. Then setting the lighting, all this kind of thing. We needed to show Eric 2 Martin guitars and a Fender guitar. The Fender guitar was Brownie. You may have seen this video. I was the camera guy. So set the guitars up. Eric had a signature Fender combo in the room. I got his chair ready. We got a bottle of Perrier and a glass, and everything, and get it all nice and everything. Tried to make it nice and cool and uncluttered and everything. And we're waiting for Eric to turn up quite nervously. Anyway, he turns up. Hey guys, how you doing? And he was so nice, so chilled. Sort of immediately wanted to shake hands, and I was like, my God, I'm touching Eric Clapton's hand. And he said, so, what are we going to do? I know you got some stuff to show me. And we said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you sit down? We'll get rolling. We'll kind of do it naturally and a bit organically. So he sat down, we started rolling, and we presented him with a couple of these sort of prototype Martin guitars. And he was, over the moon. Absolutely loved these acoustics, was really interested in the way the bracing was done, and he knew his shit about an acoustic. He really understood what made it work, what made it operate, and he loved the patterns and the way it was constructed. And they sat down and started playing. Let me tell you, when you're in a small room, whether you are a fan of Eric Clapton or not, when someone like that starts playing an instrument like an acoustic guitar, it's mind-blowing. And he's a good acoustic player. He must have spent a lot of time at that time recently focusing on acoustic. He had some chops. I was surprised because I wasn't into acoustic Eric. I got into Eric through Cream. So watching him just sit there noodling and playing a little bit of classical and then a bit of, you know, finger picking, it was really cool. And his sort of Magic Sam style blues chops on an acoustic were really exciting to watch. Anyway, he enjoys them, he signs them off. Yeah, that's cool, excited. You know, what else have you got? And we're like, we've got this guitar from Fender. It's Brownie. And he's like, oh, right, okay. So we hand it over and he holds it and looks at it. And you can see he's trying to access a memory of how it felt at the time. And he can't quite, you know, it's been a while. And he's like, oh, I'm not sure it's the right... Is it the right neck? I don't know. And Michael's like, yeah, it's exactly the same neck and same pickups. And Eric's kind of not quite sure. Anyway, I said, look, would you mind if we record you playing the Fender? And he's like, oh, well, actually, I've had flu and I've been unwell. I haven't played for a long time. I don't know, you know, whether I'll be any good. And I said, well, would you mind if we just tried? Because it would be great to get some on camera. You know, if you really don't want to, obviously it's up to you, Eric, but please. And he's like, all right. So he plugs into the combo on the floor and he went, have you got a pick? And I'm like, yes, here's a pick. I think I gave him a Dorje pick. Anyway, he starts playing and he wasn't good. He was incredibly rusty and he apologized, tried a bit more. And then something happened. And I'm so glad that I was able to be present when this happened because it was fucking magical. And I watched, because I'm looking through an SLR, the screen on the back of an SLR, quite close up. I've got two of them. One focused on his hand, left hand, and one a bit further pulled out to capture all of Eric. Anyway, I'm looking at the close-up and I see the wedge of thumb muscle on his left hand just relax, and that part of his hand backed away from the neck, and suddenly he kind of let go of the neck and allowed it to ring, and then he started to do some vibrato, and Eric Clapton was in the room. It was absolutely amazing. And then it clicked. Suddenly, he could play. The licks were there, the chops were there, and me and Michael were just like, this is mad. It was like it just came back. But, oh yeah, I'm Eric Clapton. I can just really play guitar very well. And it was in that one moment that I realised that all of the DNA of a guitar player, the bit that you remember, the bit that gets the most emotional content from the player to the listener, is in the vibrato. Something about Eric's vibrato is so uniquely Eric. I mean, it's slow. It's measured, but it's free. And it's such a part of his sound that I really took that to heart. The message, the signature, the DNA of a guitar player is in their vibrato to such an extent that if you're just playing notes and runs and licks and there isn't any vibrato, it's kind of occasionally difficult to know who's who, you know? Anyway, we finished the chat. He loved the guitar. And it was time to finish. You know, I was a bit sad about that. He got up and he said, oh, thanks, Rob. You know, thank you for pushing me to play. You know, really appreciate some of the questions you asked. He talked a lot about charity. He talked a lot about, you know, the old times, and he dove back into people that he talked to about pickups. It was just mad. I wish I could show you the whole video and some of the behind stuff, but I just can't do it. Anyway, as he's leaving, Michael says to him, by the way, I should have introduced you properly. This is Rob Chapman. He's one of the greatest YouTube guitar players. And I'm like, don't tell Eric Clapton that I'm anything. I am nothing. And he's like, oh, no, I've seen you. I've seen you on some of the videos and stuff. And yeah, and I'm like, oh, my God. And he's like, tell me about YouTube. How does it work? You know, kind of what is it? And I thought, as if I'm going to tell Eric Clapton about YouTube, you know. And I said, look, it's like Radio Caroline. It's like pirate radio. You can film anything, you can say anything, good, bad, ugly, whatever, and you can kind of put it out there. and you can have your own channel to express your views, your emotions, your music. And he said, yeah, that sounds rock and roll. I like that. And that was it. He walked down the stairs, shook hands again, said goodbye. And I'll never forget that experience. He was a great guy, an amazing musician, and watching him let go of the neck and express the music through vibrato was one of the single greatest lessons I have ever received in playing the guitar. Thank you, Eric, and the guys that run the house. Thank you, Guitar Centre and Michael, for allowing that to happen. Have an amazing day, and I really hope you've enjoyed one of the lessons I learned from an afternoon with Eric Clapton. Take it easy. Chappers out.